Hey guys, I've been asked to make a quick video on how I roll cigars, so here we go. First I have my Pennsylvania binder. It's in a low to medium case. I'm just going to strip the center vein out. I always roll my binder the similar way I do a wrapper with the veins up just to keep it. I have my Lieberman machine. Some folks aren't with it, but I like the Lieberman machine just because it's quick and easy. So I'm just going to get that wrapper leaf all set up. Then I'm going to go to my filler. This is Dominican Seca. I use mostly the N2 bottle method you'll see on here. So I'm just gathering some Seca leaves here first. Trim down the size slightly. I'm making about a 6-inch cigar here, so let's keep that in mind as we go on. If you look here, I just kind of make a little slight passage to make sure my Ligero goes in the middle. So we'll move on to here to the Ligero. This is the top leaf, a little bit thicker forward. You always want to make sure that's in the center of your cigar just to make sure it burns properly. Gives a nice cone-shaped ash, etc., etc. So I'm just rolling that into a nice tight tube to keep it in the center. Just going to take a second Ligero leaf here. Again, this is all to preference on your blend, so feel free to do experimenting with this. Again, this Ligero leaf is a little bit thicker than that last one, a little drier, but I think we'll be okay. I tend to like a little Ligero on my blends. So now that we have the Ligero in the center and our Seco on the outside, it's very important to maintain that to get a good blend, or a good burn, sorry. We go back to the Seco. Feel free to use some of the scraps when you tear off to build the rest of the body. This is this particular Seco is a bit thin, so add a little bit more to it. Just rolling this into the tube, hence the N2 bottle method. Breaking it off the size. Just gonna feel the bunch, make sure it's consistent. Seems a little deficient on the top, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more of the Seco up top here. Again, this is all about feel. You just get to learn this without doing it. So now we have our bunch. We're going to put in the Lieberman here. Just make sure we get a little leaf here to catch on to it. Again, just make sure that Ligero is always in the middle. Using the Lieberman super easy. Just going to roll it up. And there we have a perfect bunch. We're just going to feel with that guy to make sure that it's an even bunch. I'm gonna grab my Chevette here. Cut off the end. If you look, this is the end that you're wrapping. I always like to make my head at the other end, just a personal preference thing. Try to make this as perpendicular as possible. So now we got a nice bunch here. Place this into the mold. If you look, and we're just gonna do this. Use the Chevette to get really sunk into the mold there. We'll just push it forward to make sure it gets a really nice cap. Now we'll take the lid and we'll press it out, and I'll come back to you in a minute. Hey guys, we're back here after the cigars have been in the press. Just want to show you the difference between the before and after. Here's the before that we just did, and here's one I had in the mold yesterday. I tend to keep my cigars in there overnight because if you look, these are kind of squishy and soft. But after they sit in there overnight, they're really firm. It allows you to get a really tight wrap on them. Give you a really nice finish on your cigar. So here we go. I just got a shipment of Dawn's Habano 2000 wrapper, which is fantastic, I must say. Super color, excellent. Just excellent around. Just looks beautiful. I'm sure if you can see the color on that, the camera probably doesn't do it justice, but it's just a beautiful wrapper. So first thing we'll do, again, we'll just pull out the central vein. And when you do this, you should be able to tell if your wrapper's in the right case. You should be able to pull that vein out without ripping the leaf. If it rips the leaf, you need to rehydrate your leaf a bit before you jump into this process. So again, that obviously gives us 2 halves to roll it. So we'll pick one here. There's 2 different sides. This is the front of the cigar, which is the top of the leaf. Very nice, minimal veins. Here's the back. She's all the veins. We're going to roll it that side up just to hide everything inside and make the cigar look as best as possible. Next, I'm just going to flatten out this leaf a little bit. and just fillet it up here. Obviously, you're going to want to go as close to the edge as possible here with this leaf. If you look in the center, these are all the big ugly veins. We want to keep those out of the cigar. So I'm just going to try to get as much of this edge as possible. A quick note on the case, I like to keep my leaf as dry as possible. Obviously it needs to be wet, but the drier it is, the better, the quicker it's going to dry, the quicker you can enjoy it, and just the less ripping and staining and all the grossness that happens on your wrapper. So I'm just going to fillet the edge here. And then this is obviously the edge that matters the most on the cigar. So you want to make sure that that's clean, one cut, and also stretch as much as you can, because if there's a wrinkle and you cut it, it's going to give you kind of a jagged edge, which will make your cigar look a little wonky and amateurish. And then I'll take the center. This one doesn't matter so much. If you notice, there's just a little bit of an arc in here. By the time we get up here, this will be the top of the head of the cigar, so that'll matter a little bit more. This piece will save it just in case we need it towards the end. So now we have our wrapper. It looks really nice. I'll take my cigar. I tend to use a closed foot, so I'm actually going to cut this cigar down to size first. Just over 6 inches. So now, instead of doing, you can do it at the end if you want an open foot, or I tend to use a closed foot. So now we have our cigar. Notice since it was drying in the press overnight, it's really firm. It's got an excellent shape already. You know, almost looks like a finished cigar minus the pre-wrapper. So we're just going to grab the end here. You just got to be careful when you wrap these shaggy foots. If you don't get that leaf inside enough and if someone pulls on it, it will come apart. So just keep that in mind while you do it. But I think it's the old Cuban style. It's pretty cool. People seem to like it. So again, I'm just going to set my cigar up in here. And if you look, I'm going to stretch that leaf as much as I can without ripping it. I'm just going to slowly go up. Oh, quick note here. These are our veins. And you want to make sure your cigar is pretty much parallel to those veins. I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera or not, but the veins are running this way. So you want your cigar to run the same way. That helps mask a lot of the veins in the cigar, so it's not showing up on your finished product. So again, I'll just start the cigar down here. Just stretch that wrapper as much as you can. And just check as you go. Just make sure that there's a really clean edge. Especially with these shaggy foots, make sure that that's not too loose down there, because if someone gives it a pull on that, it will come apart. I'm not sure if you can see that from there, but I'm actually going to go back and just fix that up a little bit. Just stretching that. That should almost be a flat piece of paper when you're coming into it. If it's not, your leaf's not in the right case, or you need to figure out what you're doing wrong. And don't be afraid to unroll and re-roll. As you saw, this leaf down here is a little bit wonky for me, so I'm just going to cut this off and try again. Especially on these smaller cigars, if you're not rolling 70 ring gauge cigars, it's okay to use the whole leaf, so don't be afraid to unwrap and rewrap. So now I'm just doing the same thing, stretching it as flat as possible. And now if you look, it's a way better, I'm not sure if you can see that from here, but the foot of the cigar looks a lot neater. So I'm just going to continue going up. And one quick note here, on the Cuban style, you would remove, well, I'm going to, but you remove this vein right here. It'll come up to your cap and make the cap look pretty wonky. So I'm just going to quickly rip this out. Just make sure you have enough to roll the cigar up into it. You can see that. So I pull it off right here, and that way the cigar can roll into it. Let's continue rolling this up. And take a little bit of glue. Again, very, very little bit on the glue. You don't need a lot of glue. It's all about the tension in the wrapper. Just going to roll that right into it. I'm just going to pigtail it, make my cap. So if you look, I have a nice pigtail here. Not sure if you can see that. What I like to do at this point is just stretch the wrapper out to make sure we get the best finish possible on it. So now we have the pigtail cap. And I'm going to just chop that off real quick, and then we'll make the flag and cap it off. So again, the top of your cigar should look something like that. Just make sure it's all caught in. If you notice, there's a little bit of string on the cut there. But we should be okay on that, just because the flag will cover it up. If not, we can always go back and trim it with their scissors. So now we got a finished cigar. I'm just going to stretch that wrapper down a little bit. And feel free to give it a little bit of a roll to make sure all the the veins are out. There's not too many veins in this wrapper. It's really nice. You know, there's going to be some. It's a cigar leaf, so there's going to be some veins, but this is a really nice wrapper. So onto the cap. So here we go. I usually like to grab this section right here in between two of the big veins. And I'll take my first edge. This is going to be the edge that wraps around the cigar, so you want that to be as straight as possible. I kind of cut a trapezoidal type shape out of it. I know that's not a standard way of doing it, but it's kind of a way that I've figured out that I like to do. And I'm just trimming that to make that the most flush edge, because that's going to be this part you see underneath your final cap. So I'm just going to take some glue here, put it on this edge. And we're going to take the cigar. There's several different ways to do it. You can put it underneath the wrapper. You can take this flag and put it underneath, but honestly, I don't really see a need to, because most of the time it comes unwrapped and you can't get it as tight. The way I see it, the pigtail cap kind of tightens it up. So I just start at the top, as close to the head as you can get, and then just try to keep it straight as you go around the cigar here. And there's different schools of thought. Usually I let mine go around twice on these smaller ring gauge cigars just to make a really nice cap. A lot of people cut their cigars off too far down the actual body of the cigar, so that just kind of protects it from unraveling. So there you have your flag, which is kind of all sticking up at the top like that. So I'm just going to take some glue, wet it up, and just make another pigtail. I'm just going to seal everybody in. And again, just always be cognizant of the wrapper getting bunched up or anything gross like that. Great, so now we have our pigtail. I mean, in the old school Cuban tradition, you can leave that on there if you like, but a lot of people like to see the cap. So it's going to be a quick cap. I just use scissors for this because it's easier to do. And then I just round this guy off. So that's what your cap looks like before we put the final cap on. So this is obviously the part everyone knows. Super easy. Just going to take a disc, wet it up. Use a regular piece of copper pipe to cut your final cap, and just find a nice clean piece of tobacco and just roll a shape in. And then you're just gonna, oops, sorry about that. Don't let that happen. You're just gonna take your disc of tobacco here and just stamp it into the top of the cigar. If you do that, it's okay. Stamp it into the top. Now you just want to pull it and make sure it's as flat as possible. Remember, this is going to be the final piece, the first piece of the cigar your customer or your smoker will see. So just make sure that you glue it down. I tend to use a little bit of glue up here and just roll it between the webbing between your thumb and first finger just to get it a real smooth cap. And that's it. That's your finished cigar. Not sure if you can see that, but it's got a pretty good finish. And in about half hour, it'll dry, and also will firm up the wrapper a bit. So it'll give you your final cigar. There's a couple ones that I did earlier. If you can see the difference, it's a little bit tighter wrap on it, which makes it look a little bit more professional. But I mean, you could smoke this now if you wanted to, or you can age it for a couple weeks, months, years, whatever you like to do. But there you go.